Hello everyone. Before we get started with today's 3 exciting horror books, I have a couple announcements to make. First, if you're a member of my Patreon page, I got something special coming for you in just about a week. My new novella is coming out, and it is called Tales of Salvation. It's a book of connected short stories based on my fictional town of Salvation, Michigan. And you got ghosts, and you got werewolves, and you got all kinds of creepy things, and a lot of blood, of course. You got a mayor who speaks gibberish, and that will be explained. And you have a battle of life and death between a man and a cat. You got all kinds of things in there. And you, if you're a member of my Patreon, will be the first ones to read it. I'll be posting that in just about a week, so if that's something you're interested in, check out that link and get involved. And later this month, of course, I'll have 5 more absolutely free horror books from other authors as well. And the second thing I want to announce is that there's a t-shirt place if you're looking for some new duds, and it's called Raw Dog T-shirts, and you can go check them out. They got these designs you see on your screen, but they have many, many more. They're funny, they're cool, they're ironic sometimes, you know, and they're not a lot of money. And if you use my link down below, you'll get at least 10% off of your order. So I can help save you some money on some new clothes if you're looking. All right, with that being said, let's get started. So the first book I want to talk about today is called To Those Willing to Drown. This is a book steeped in loss. It's steeped in grief. It's very emotional, very impactful. But it also has monsters living in a lake. It has an eldritch being of sorts living in a well where people can make these kind of Faustian deals with this thing. And of course, we all know those never turn out good for the humans. But yeah, the grief in here just really comes through, especially when it comes to, you know, losing a child. That's something I think everybody can relate to on some level. And this book explores that very, very well, while still being frightening with these monsters in the lake and this creature in the well. And the thing I like about it is that it takes place at a real lake in Michigan called Torch Lake. And the author has used real local legends and lore about that lake and about that area to influence this novel. And I like that because I was born and raised in Michigan. And so whenever, you know, I got another fellow Michigander author out there doing something like that, it always gets me excited. And of course, the story, though, it's all about the story no matter where it's located. And this one is just emotional. It's impactful. And it's got a lot of good stuff that I can't even tell you about because I don't want to spoil anything. But there's a man. It starts out with a man. It's after the Civil War, and he is a pastor and a surgeon. He was a surgeon during the war, and he's seen some things, and it's very much affected him. When he loses his wife and his son after the war, that's when he first goes to this well on his property and makes a deal with it, and it talks back to him. And the deal is, this thing will kind of keep his wife and son around in a certain way. You'll have to read about it, really, because it's not a zombie. It's not like they're going to come back to life, but you'll have to read about it. But they'll be around, but in exchange, he is going to be cursed. And this curse is going to involve him living for over 100 years, and he has to feed. But what he feeds on to keep this memory of his wife and his son alive is he has to find children that have been cremated, but whose souls are still with them. And you have to read about how all this happens. Trust me on this. And what he has to do to feed is something just, it's very dreadful. It's very disgusting sometimes. But he has to find these ashes. He has to do something with them in order to keep living and keep the memory of his wife and son alive. And then we're going to meet some people later, you know, in more modern times. A woman who's working as a camp counselor in that area at Torch Lake. And one night, one of their campers is missing when they were out swimming. He's missing from the little floating dock out in the lake. And they believe he's drowned. They believe he's dead. But she is going to, in grief, as she's walking off, and she is devastated by this. She is going to find this well. This well is going to speak to her, and she is going to make a Faustian deal again with this creature in the well, which is connected to the creatures in the lake. And this deal will allow this child who had drowned to actually come back, but in exchange for something that at that point in her life she's not even thinking about. But later on, she meets a man, she gets married, and now this curse, her part of the deal, is now coming up. And within this context, she is going to meet this man, this pastor and surgeon, who's been alive for over 100 years, and their paths are going to intersect, and it's just going to become so dreadfully grief-filled. I mean, this thing is heart-aching when you're reading it. And it's still terrifying because the more deals they make with this thing, trying to get out of their previous ones, the worse it becomes for them. And basically this book is about what would you sacrifice? How much would you sacrifice for the ones you love? And it explores that very, very beautifully, while at the same time just keeping you hooked on those pages. Because the ending of this book is, it's not a happy ending. It's not necessarily a happy ending, but it's not actually a horrible ending. That's all I'm going to say. It's kind of like one of those bittersweet endings where it's probably the happiest ending it could have been under the circumstances. Yeah, this one is simply fantastic. Of course I loved it. Of course I highly recommend it. And there's a link in the description where you can pick up your copy. And next we have a book that's coming out next month, man. We're getting ready for a great, great spooky season here. And this one is fantastic. It's called The Film You're About to See. And this one is like a throwback. It's got a lot of blood. It's got a lot of gore. It's got a great story. And it's basically about a group of friends who go to a drive-in for their Monster Marathon Madness night, right? They're going to do a whole night from dusk until dawn of different types of horror movies. And the theater is playing it up, you know. It has a hearse sitting in front of this, the big screen at the drive-in there. They have actresses that act as fake nurses in case anybody needs medical attention. When you first go into it, they give out these barf bags because they say, hey, you're going to need them because these movies are going to freak you out that much, you know. The whole hyped thing that I really loved about that time back in the day. But when they get there, they're going to soon discover that, well, there's something else there. Something else that is hungry. Something that will stalk people. Something that will invade people's bodies and make them do very, very horrific things, not only to themselves, but to other people. And pretty soon, even when bodies start dropping and this thing starts just causing a massacre of sorts, a lot of people think it's all part of the show. These are all actors trying to scare them. So nobody's aware at first. But as it ramps up, and pretty soon it's just going to be complete chaos in that theater. And this book really is great at referencing some of them old school films that you would see at a drive-in, you know. And you can tell the author has a lot of love for those older films, which I do also. And that whole vibe and the whole attitude that you would have in something like that really shines through this book, which makes it so compulsively readable, is the way I would put it, because you're just reading along and you're stuck in that world, and you're right there in that drive-in where everybody is trapped, and this bloodthirsty monster is jumping from person to person, and massacres are happening, and heads are rolling, and people are being eviscerated, you know, all over. Yeah, this one is just fantastic. It's got every kind of spooky vibe you could want, especially for Halloween, you know. And you absolutely want to pre-order it. And as I said, I do recommend it, highly recommend it. And there is a pre-order link in the description. And next we have Old Haunts. This one is, you know, if you know Mark Towsey, you know he writes these great, straightforward, terrific horror books filled with a lot of humor. And him and Nathan Ludwig, they've written this one, and this one is just great. It's got everything you could want in a horror. It's just as much horrifying as it is humorous. It's got a lot of humor in there to keep you chuckling, but they're going to throw you into a world that you're not expecting, and these guys certainly are not ready for. And basically, it's very straightforward. It's about 3 ex-cons who are out of prison, and they decide to go on the straight and narrow, and they've started basically a ghost hunting channel, and they're fairly successful. Money's coming in, millions of views, you know, because they're real, they're authentic, and they don't always get along and see eye to eye, and we'll see that banter back and forth and their conversations, which really keeps this book going in the chuckles, because even though they're kind of gruff and they're kind of foul-mouthed and everything, they're still there's something about them, you know. You're going to like these guys. And the thing is, they do spend most of their time debunking things. Like all their videos and all their success, they never actually found a real paranormal event that couldn't be explained. Until one day, they get a request from twin psychics who offer them a huge, life-changing amount of bounty if they meet with them and do something for them. And basically this is going to wind them, they're going to end up in the land of the dead, a portal between our world and the dead world, you know, another world. And they're going to wind up there trying to re-kill a ghost that has been haunting these sisters, and trying to re-kill him in his world, if that makes sense. But there are twists and turns in here, and there's more to it than just that as you're reading along. That's just the basic plot, but there's other things that are going to go on here for this money. But like I said, the main focus of this book, the thing that really drives it along are these 3 characters, these 3 ex-cons. They are so perfectly imperfect together that you'll be laughing one minute, and then their lives are in danger the next, and you're like, no, don't kill this guy. You know, yeah, he's kind of a prick sometimes, but I kind of like him. You know, is one of those kind of characters where they're so perfectly imperfect that you can't help but kind of love them a little bit and feel some sympathy for them, you know, because they are trying their best and everything. But they're going to get involved in some things that they are definitely not ready for. And maybe they live, maybe they don't. You're going to have to read to find out. But this one is absolutely fantastic. It's a quick read, faster read. And yeah, it's just something you'll be glad that you read once you finish it. You know, you'll be saying, oh, I'm glad I read this and it's in my life now. One of those kind of deals. Yeah, I absolutely love this one. Of course, I highly recommend it. And there is a link in the description where you can pick up your copy right now. And as always, I want to say thank you for taking some of your time and spending it here with me. And until we meet again, keep reading spooky, my friends.